I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, February the 13th. And the last time we talked about how it didn't have any fat cattle trade last week. And I'm not the only one that didn't know about the after hours trade on Friday. Nobody knew about it other than the few guys that sold some cattle that way. And they were kind of led to believe that they were the only ones getting it done. Your packers were definitely not going to say anything to anyone. They waited till way after the board had closed. So whenever guys did start selling some cattle at 126 and they got out of their hedges, they would have liked to have got out of their hedges then they were going to see the market go up like it did on Monday as they counteracted their short positions. But nobody knew about the trade that went on. It was very hush-hush. It was way after 5 o'clock. That was the last that Market News with USDA had sent out a report. They were getting just a few smatterings of 126, but nothing. But that's kind of the way they want it. These packers are just so much better at this negotiated trade than the feedlot guys are. And I'm on the feedlot guy's side. It's just that you've got less than a half a dozen heads together maneuvering guys and working, and it's not that they're buying that many cattle negotiated, but it's the thousands and tens of thousands that are being priced off that little dab that they do trade, and they're all about getting that done. So pushing guys off till late on Friday night to get it done, that goes right into their wheelhouse there. And the packers do not want to give the market any more position as they're getting in to some heavier numbers of market-ready cattle, because I tell you what, they are going to try to kill this market as soon as we get into those big numbers. The packers have basically not lost any money at all, even on the bad weeks the last couple of years. Their margins are tight right now, and they don't really like it. They don't want to do that. Just imagine if your feedlots just laid down when they were losing money, they wouldn't get a heck of a lot done. But the after hours trade, they ended up being a lot more than what we thought. We'll talk about the market here after we talk about the board. But you look at the board on Monday, April live cattle futures up $1.37. Just a strong reaction there at 125 even, and February was up 60 cents at 127.12. Now that fat market did not go up in response to the news that we had after hours fat cattle trade, because that information did not come out until way after the board had already opened. But March feeder cattle ended the day on Monday up $1.47 at 147.67, and April up $1.77 at 149.52. So a good start to the week on the board. But like I said, basically nobody knew of any fat cattle trade, and I'm not saying just me or just the guy walking down the street. I talked to a lot of people that had no idea of any trade that happened Friday night. And they ended up reporting on mandatory price reporting after they went in there, and who knows how many of those cattle they bought Friday afternoon on a hush-hush, not a peep type deal, and then they just forgot to turn those things in Friday afternoon, and they waited till Monday morning to do it, which they're famous for. They ended up with 66,400 head for the week. 64,600 of them sold Friday night after dark. Your weighted average was a little bit higher, as it took a little bit more to get a few of those guys to give, so they maybe one of the few times if they had some really good cattle, they might give them a pinch more on a negotiated basis. But your weighted average for steers live 126.15, that was up 24 cents from the week before's weighted average. And your dress steers averaged $200.30, so that was up 40 cents on the weighted average dress basis compared to the previous week. As you look at your feeder markets, your real-time index on Beef Market Central at the end of Monday was at 147.17, basically steady, but down just 9 cents. and that's from the end of last week when we had several of those Northern Plains sales late in the week post some very impressive markets, and the lion's share of your Monday sales are in the Southern Plains, and we didn't lose much ground. So that's pretty strong, and then just continuing a good steady market right now, with your best advance continuing on cattle that they will be turning out on grass here if we ever get done with this winter. But Oklahoma City at 6,000 head, lighter run because of the bitter cold temperatures over the weekend. Feeders were steady to $4 higher, and most of the advance was seen on your 6-weight cattle, and those 6-weight cattle are not going into the feedlot. They will kind of creep those things along and just make them survive until we get to the grass to turn out on. But as we've talked in the past, guys continue to turn heavier and heavier cattle out early in the spring. Some of that because they want them to get the best use of that on those double stock pastures in some of your major grazing areas. Another reason they turn those bigger cattle out is it doesn't bother them a bit if those cattle are weighing 1,000 pounds. If they keep them full term on grass, that's just that much better, and they can make them that much bigger when they put them on the feedlot and maybe hang 1,600 or 1,700 pounds on them by the time they take them to the show list. But your calves were steady to $3 higher in a lighter test, but still continuing good demand for all classes of feeders and stocker type cattle. Joplin Regional Stockyards, the weather and the cold, bitter temperatures there, curved receipts there also, 4,500 lighter run. Feeders there were just steady. Calves under 600 pounds, $2 to $5 higher, and Joplin is one of those places where calf buyers, people looking to buy lighter weights, they send the orders into there because you get into southwest Missouri, they will have lighter weight calves when nobody has any, and they just turn cattle so much more often there. They have multiple times a year that and not just wide open like the southeast, but they have a lot of spring calvers, they have a lot of fall calvers, and guys that work both ends there, and the way that guys stockpile that fescue grass and work with that and then rotate their grazing, they're just always moving cattle right in that part of the country. You look at a sale up in Iowa here on DV Auction that had a really good sale on Monday. Russell, Iowa, Russell Livestock. Look at the steer quotes on there for Monday on Cattle Market Central. Steers were steady to firm for the most part in the most popular weights, and I'm talking in those big calves and kind of short yearling type cattle. 435 head of steers weighed 658 pounds at 165.66. 447 head of 7-weight steers average right at 750 pounds at 152.08, and 379 head of 831 pound steers average 143.42, and those are pretty good quotes for an average deal. That wasn't just a string, that was the average of all those cattle in the weight group. But you look at some individual quotes. Faith, South Dakota, Faith Livestock Commission had a good market on some calves on Monday. 100 head of 549 pound steers Monday evening bring $2,450. That's a pretty good market there on some cattle starting to get some weight to them. And Tri-State Livestock in McCook, Nebraska, Monday afternoon sold 58 head of big steers weighed 934 pounds at 147. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.